It's me. Happy birthday.
Daniel! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! The whole time you were... The whole time!
Oh, I'm sorry, Miranda. Please.
Don't talk to me!
The whole thing is just a favorite memory. It was an extraordinary experience.
For decades, rumors swirled about what really happened between Sally Field and Robin Williams on the set of Mrs. Doubtfire, with tabloids spinning stories of feuds and on-set drama. But at 78, Sally is finally speaking out, and the truth isn't scandalous, it's profoundly human. Behind the laughter, the chaos, and the unforgettable performances, there was a side of Robin few ever saw, and Sally was right there to witness it. For 30 years, this memory stayed private, and now she's sharing it for the first time. Stick around, because what she reveals doesn't just rewrite a Hollywood story, it will completely reshape how you think of the legend.
Just make yourself at home. I'll be right back. He'll be back. I'll go get him. Don't be afraid. I'll be right there. Don't worry. Danny! Danny, boy, where are you? Oh, here he is, dear. I found him. Danny, there's a Mrs. Sellner here to see you.
Oh, is she here?
Yes, dear, she is. Oh, Mrs. Sellner. I just got out of the shower. I think you'll be very pleased with me. I've been through some really interesting changes, and I'm becoming a new man and a model father. He'll be right there. He's just changing, dear.
Robin Williams' humor was electric, unstoppable, and often described as a kind of armor, a way to keep the world at bay while hiding the intense sensitivity underneath. Anyone who worked with him on set knew it wasn't all showbiz energy. Between takes, crew members would sometimes find him napping in full costume, still wearing the heavy latex mask of Mrs. Doubtfire, only to wake up and start quoting Shakespeare or riffing on absurd ideas that left everyone laughing and slightly bewildered. That combination of brilliance and vulnerability was quintessential Robin. Years later, we would learn that behind the laughter, he was fighting a battle that almost nobody could see.
People think your husband killed himself because he was depressed. No, Lewy body dementia killed Robin.
In the years leading up to his death in 2014, Robin struggled with paranoia, confusion, memory lapses, and mounting anxiety. At first, doctors diagnosed him with Parkinson's disease, but the truth that emerged after his passing was far more devastating. An autopsy revealed that he had been suffering from an advanced case of Lewy body dementia, a progressive brain disorder that is both relentless and incurable. Specialists who studied his brain described it as one of the most severe cases they had ever seen, with Lewy bodies, abnormal protein deposits, spread across nearly every region. Suddenly, the odd moments, the private kindnesses on set, and even the energy behind his comedy made more sense. Now, decades later, Sally Field has finally spoken out, confirming a truth about Robin that only someone who worked closely with him could ever reveal. She's giving us a glimpse into the man behind the mask, the side of Robin that the cameras and the jokes never fully captured. But before we get into what she revealed, let's rewind to a year when the world first saw Robin in a completely different light. The year is 1993, and the world is falling in love with a Scottish nanny who just happens to be a divorced father in disguise.
Is that your lifestyle over the past months has been very unorthodox, and I refuse to further subject 3 innocent children to your peculiar and potentially harmful behavior. It is this court's decision to award full custody to Mrs. Hillard.
Oh, God, no, sir, please.
You will have supervised visitation rights every Saturday.
Supervised, sir?
Yes. A court liaison will accompany you when you spend time with the children. I am suggesting a period of psychological testing and perhaps treatment for you, Mr. Hillard. We will re-examine this case 1 year from now.
Mrs. Doubtfire wasn't just a movie. It was a phenomenon, and at the heart of it were 2 incredible talents. Robin Williams, a whirlwind of improvisation bouncing around in a floral bodysuit, and Sally Field, who grounded every scene with her sharp, steady portrayal of Miranda Hillard. On the press circuit, they seemed like the perfect pair. Lots of laughs, big smiles, and the kind of on-camera chemistry that made interviews feel effortless. To the public, it was all harmony. But behind the scenes, the story was more complicated and a little messier than the polished headlines suggested. Sally, at that time, was carrying a lot more than a script. A couple of years before filming, her father had suffered a stroke and was living in a nursing facility. And the emotional weight of that reality was constant, quietly pressing on her every day. Robin, as always, was dazzling the crew and audiences alike with endless energy, improvisation, and humor. But Sally was managing a personal storm that no one on set could see. The cameras would roll, she would deliver Miranda's lines flawlessly, but in between takes her own life reminded her that joy and grief often exist side by side. One day, while filming the movie's emotionally intense divorce court scene, a sequence designed to capture a family falling apart, Sally got a phone call that would change everything. It was her father's doctor, and the news was sudden and devastating. He had passed away after a massive stroke. The doctor asked the hardest question a child can ever face. Did she want him put on a resuscitator? Sally, knowing her father's wishes, said no, her voice catching with emotion. "Just let him go," she told him, adding softly, "and please lean down and say, 'Sally says goodbye.'" Minutes later, she wiped her face, walked back on set, and told the crew she was ready. Imagine that, the cameras rolling on a fictional family breaking apart, while in real life, her own heart was shattering. And that's when Robin stepped in a way that people on set still talk about. Robin Williams had this incredible ability to walk into a room and immediately sense the mood. People who worked with him often said it was like he had a sixth sense for picking up when someone was even slightly off. So on that day, when Sally Field walked back to set after getting the devastating phone call about her father, Robin knew something wasn't right. He was already in partial costume as Mrs. Doubtfire, wig askew, floral dress half-buttoned, latex mask hanging around his neck. But his playful energy paused the moment he looked at her. She was holding herself together for the sake of the scene, but he noticed the tiny details most people would miss. The way her eyes looked tired and unfocused, the slight twitch in her face, the stillness in her body that was so unlike her usual grounded presence. Rather than letting the cameras roll, Robin quietly told the crew to pause. "Just a quick break," he said. "Nothing more than 30 seconds. And he walked over to her. He asked something simple. "Are you okay?" Sally, like most of us would in that kind of moment, tried to brush it off with the kind of automatic answer you give when you don't want to lose it in front of everyone. But Robin wasn't going anywhere. He stood there, steady, waiting. Finally, she whispered the truth. "No, I'm not Robin. My father just passed." In that instant, the Robin that the world saw, the fast-talking, endlessly energetic comedian, disappeared. What replaced it was something entirely different. Calm, serious, protective. He immediately told her, "We need to get you out of here right now." He went directly to director Chris Columbus, someone who trusted him immensely, and said they had to stop shooting. The schedule was reshuffled, the cameras were shut down, and Sally was given the space to grieve, all because Robin stepped in and refused to let her carry that pain alone. And now, decades later, Sally has opened up at age 78, finally clearing the air about a rumor that has followed both her and Robin for years. So, what exactly did Sally Field confirm, and why does it change the way so many people remember Robin Williams? Well, here's the thing. What Sally finally shared is far more human, and honestly, much more moving. She confirmed that during one of the toughest days of her life, right in the middle of a busy film shoot where everyone was stressed about deadlines and box office pressure, Robin Williams noticed her pain and chose to drop everything to make sure she wasn't going through it alone. That was the real Robin, the one most people behind the camera saw every single day. When Sally flew home to bury her father and came back to set about a week later, she braced herself for what most of us would expect in that kind of situation. People giving her awkward condolences, others avoiding eye contact because they didn't know what to say, and maybe a few polite, "How are you holding up?" conversations. But what she walked into was something totally different. Robin didn't go for the cliché lines or try to fill the silence with comedy. Instead, she came back to find him still half in costume as Mrs. Doubtfire, wig crooked, latex mask pushed up, holding a lukewarm cup of tea he had apparently been keeping aside for her. No big speech, no dramatic gesture, just a quiet offering of comfort, the steam from that tea curling up between them. Sally has said it was one of the simplest but most meaningful acts of kindness she had ever experienced. And that's when things on set shifted. The movie didn't stop, of course. The cameras had to roll, the deadlines had to be met. But the energy changed. The crew worked with a softer touch. The cast treated each other with a little more patience. And somehow that sense of warmth seeped into the film itself. When critics later praised Mrs. Doubtfire for having so much heart and emotional depth, Sally always felt that they were sensing something real, something that had happened off-camera that blended into the story we all saw on screen. It wasn't just acting. It was lived experience, with kindness literally shaping the final product.
This is unusual and upsetting, but we got some news. During the show that Robin Williams has passed away, and
fast forward to August of 2014, when the world got the devastating news that Robin had passed away. It wasn't just another celebrity headline. It was one of those moments where the whole globe seemed to stop for a second. Fans were heartbroken, colleagues were stunned, and for people who had worked closely with him, like Sally, the grief was almost impossible to put into words. When she released her statement back then, she kept it simple but heartfelt, saying, "I feel stunned and so sad about Robin," described him as one of a kind, someone who lit up every room he walked into by making people laugh. But she didn't stop there. Privately, she also wrote about her grief, and in one of her reflections, she said something really striking: "Grief is love with nowhere to land." You might be wondering, if this memory was so powerful, why did it take Sally 30 years to finally tell it? For the longest time, literally 3 full decades, Sally Field kept this story to herself, and when you hear her explain why, it actually makes a lot of sense. She's never been a fan of what she calls grief as clickbait, and honestly, you probably know exactly what she means. Hollywood, and really the entertainment world in general, has this way of turning something deeply personal, like someone's pain or someone's loss, into a headline, into something to sell magazines or rack up views. And for Sally, that moment with Robin Williams wasn't something she ever wanted to see chewed up by gossip blogs or recycled in a tabloid headline. It wasn't a publicity stunt. It wasn't something meant for the public eye. It was simply a moment of 2 people being human with each other, and she chose to protect that. What's interesting is that her silence didn't go unnoticed. Hollywood's rumor mill always fills the gaps when real stories don't get told, and so in the years after Mrs. Doubtfire, people came up with their own versions of what supposedly happened behind the scenes. Some swore there were heated arguments between Robin and Sally. Others painted a picture of inflated egos clashing, or worse, tried to invent affairs and secret relationships. You know how it goes. If people don't get a real story, they'll make one up. And Robin? He just let it slide. He never once tried to set the record straight about what actually happened. When interviewers asked him about Sally, he'd just grin that big grin of his and call her a rock. That was his way of closing the door without creating a headline. And that right there says a lot about him. Some acts of kindness are just too real and too meaningful to turn into a soundbite. Both Sally and Robin seemed to understand that, so they held it quietly between them. And it stayed that way until now, when Sally, at 78 years old, finally felt like enough time had passed. Now, with Robin gone for over a decade, she's ready to share it. Not because she wants attention, but because she feels like it's a piece of him worth remembering. She's trusting us with this memory as a way of saying, this is who he really was. Don't forget. And here's the thing. Robin's kindness wasn't something he reserved only for co-stars with long resumes or Hollywood legends like Sally Field. It stretched to everyone around him, no matter who they were. A great example of that is Lisa Jacob, who played his eldest daughter Lydia in Mrs. Doubtfire.
When you're done, don't come back. We're kicking you out of high school. It's just a little disruptive. And so obviously that's pretty traumatic. I was in ninth grade, and Robin was incredibly sweet.
Lisa was just a teenager at the time, and she was balancing acting with trying to finish high school. That balance didn't last long because her Canadian school eventually expelled her for being away on set too much. Imagine being 15 and hearing that. You've lost one of the few normal things in your life. She was crushed. Robin saw how upset she was, and instead of just patting her on the shoulder and telling her it would be okay, he actually sat down and wrote a personal letter to her school principal. In the letter, he explained why Lisa deserved a little grace, that she was working hard, balancing a career and school, and that she should be supported instead of punished for it. The wild part? The principal was so amazed that Robin Williams wrote to him that he framed the letter and put it on his office wall. But he still didn't let Lisa back into school. Even though the effort didn't work, the fact that Robin took the time to do that left a massive impact on her. It was proof that she mattered, and that someone as big as Robin Williams actually cared enough to fight for her. And it wasn't just Lisa. Mara Wilson, who played the youngest daughter, Natalie, has also talked about how Robin stayed in her life even after filming Wrapped. When Mara lost her mom a few years later, Robin was one of the people who quietly checked in on her. He didn't push, didn't pry, didn't force her to relive anything painful. He just made sure she knew that he was there if she needed him. Lisa also said that Robin was one of the very first adults to ever talk to her openly about mental health. He shared some of his own struggles, which made her feel less alone in a time when nobody really talked about those things with kids. And Robin's thoughtfulness didn't stop with the cast. Crew members still tell stories about how he went out of his way to make a tough shoot easier. Birthdays on set meant surprise cakes, real bakery cakes, sometimes Michelin star level stuff, showing up in the middle of a night shoot at 3 in the morning. Imagine being exhausted after 12 hours of filming and suddenly someone brings out cake. That's the kind of atmosphere Robin created. He turned what could have been just another stressful movie set into a community, a family. So when Sally finally shared her story, it fit right into this bigger picture we already know about Robin. He wasn't perfect, and he carried his own heavy struggles. But time and again, people who worked with him say the same thing. He paid attention, he cared, and he lifted others up when they needed it most. If this story changed your perception of Robin, take a moment to subscribe. Tell us in the comments the first Robin Williams joke you ever heard, or the movie of his that made you feel something profound.